Hello everybody, and in today's video, I'm going to be covering all the questions that you guys asked during Casey Jr. the movie. Now, unfortunately, due to all the questions that I got, we're going to have to break this down into 2, maybe 3 parts. So I'll cover as many of the questions, and let's see how this goes. Do you have a Discord server? The answer to that is yes, I do. But I technically don't really use it that often, and I don't really have the notifications turned on for it. In fact, I have a big problem with using other platforms. This is another story in its own, and I'm sorry I'm getting off track this quickly. But I remember I was working with Adriana, and I'm gonna cut it short. She dropped the catastrophic "you get no bitches." Then again, I guess she is kind of right. I am very, antiquated with my old ways of doing things. I'm still using Messenger. I don't use none of that Snapchat stuff or whatever because I think it's pointless. I don't see the point of me using a face filters or your storytelling, whatever it's called. I don't see the point of using it. If I'm just going to use it to message people, why would I get it in the first place? What scale is this, HO or N? This is N scale. I've mentioned it a couple other times in other videos, but half of you new viewers probably won't know that. So yeah, for the most part, I'm just using N scale, except for the couple times I might use another model for a close-up shot like Lionel or Lego. I'll just use those for close-up shots. But for the majority of the times, I am using N scale. Are you referencing the Roaring Twenties? This is regarding chapter 4, for those of you wondering. The Roaring Twenties was minorly mentioned at the beginning of the story. I'll get back to why I do and I don't like this detail in another question. But yes, I was trying to reference the Roaring Twenties. The beginning of chapter 4 was supposed to be referencing that. It was supposed to reflect the time period we are now in. What did they do to the locomotive in chapter 3? I wasn't going to reveal this, but because I wanted to kind of leave this discreet. But that engine is actually 237 before he arrived on the Southern Eastern Railway. There's another question about characters, and I'll leave 237 for that question. But I did leave a few context clues in the actual backstory that would hint to the audience that engine was 237. I used the same theme. He appears right after the story is concluded, and that's the last time at all we see 237 in the movie. Can you add diesel locomotives? Actually, I couldn't because the movie takes place between 1850s and the late 1920s. So diesels wouldn't have been invented by that time. So I wanted to keep it as close to the original's timeline as possible. So I didn't want to stretch too far into the future. So that's why there is no diesels, because 1, they weren't invented, and 2, I didn't want to step out of the original time period. Why does 804 look more like a USRA? I can't really continue reading any more of this. To answer that question, and kind of bang my headcanon here a little bit, because this was originally supposed to be told in chapter 4, it was supposed to be revealed that 804 is not actually a USRA 060. He's actually a prototype for the USRA 060s, because the actual USRA 060s were not built until after the war, but 804 was somehow built before the war happened, so he was some sort of mashed prototype. That was supposed to be revealed in chapter 4 that he was a prototype, but for sake of keeping the runtime down, the scene was cut. So that's why he does have certain traits from other 060 steam engines, because he was supposed to be a mashed prototype. There is no chapter 5. That was the end of the story. Don't know why some people thought there was supposed to be more, but I digress. So that was supposed to be it. I will say, though, if that video ever, because I've seen a lot of you guys seem to have loved this project to death. So sometime in the future, I might do a full version Maybe if that video ever reaches like 1,000 something likes, maybe I'll go ahead and do a full version. Although I might cut chapter 4, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. I doubt I'll ever bring 237 back, seeing as one, his model's been repurposed as Leviathan, and two, I wanted to kind of leave him as a character as kind of a mysterious type character the audience doesn't understand. So overall, I don't believe 237 will be coming back in any sort of sequel or anything like that. You see, there's actually a funny thing about that. I did actually make X-04 circus engine. But yeah, he was supposed to be a circus engine in the final act of the film. It was supposed to cut to like present day, Casey telling the story to the other circus engines that were now part of the circus. Again, this scene was cut for the sake of keeping Chapter 4's runtime down. No, Casey Jr.'s old railway is not a heritage railway. And it's actually part of Red Dead's canon. The Jameson Mining Company is part of Red Dead's canon. So I feel like introducing Red Dead to this movie was kind of confusing for the audience who aren't familiar with it. I wish I hadn't put so much of Red Dead's canon into the actual movie. So I feel like there's a bit too much and it kind of confuses the audience a little bit. So I do not blame you for I don't blame you for asking that question. My model railway is actually 3 foot by 6 foot. So it's actually a lot smaller than a conventional model railroad. And I will admit the ends of the layout are rather squeezed on. But you can fit a layout onto a 3x6 baseboard if you want. I felt like 4x8 was a bit wide and a bit long. Yeah, if you do have, I believe I have to double check the radius, but you can fit that radius right there on a 3-inch wide layout. So you can take it actually an inch smaller than Kato recommends. I may or may not release a director's cut depending on how this copyright thing goes that I'm having with Chapter 2. Because currently I'm having a copyright issue. A lot of people think it's YouTube's fault, but I actually want to blame Disney because most of the time it is a Disney-related product that has become the abbot of my copyright issues. So I think I'm going to blame Disney here. They copyrighted me for the using the Star Wars, the Darth Vader, whatever it's called. What's it called? Yeah, they copyrighted me for that, even though every other time I've used a remix for something, YouTube has genuinely let me get away with it, so I think I'm actually going to blame Disney in this case for coming after me in this scenario. Like I said before, I might plan on making a full version of the movie, basically combining chapters 1, 2, and 3. I don't think I'll count 4 because I feel like 4 is just an extension and it just like adds to the other characters. So, I feel like that's more like an extension, and I feel like we didn't really need a Chapter 4, because, Casey, at the end of Chapter 3, Casey proved his worth. He proved that he could, overcome issues. He proved that he's a valuable asset to the circus. He saved, like, thousands of people from dying in a potential train crash. So I feel like he already proved enough his worth, and that literally could have just been the end of the story. I don't think there needed to be any sort of Chapter 4. So I'm actually not entirely sure what will be happening with the characters, because I'm actually going to be going off to college now. So I've got a lot ahead of me now. So I've got a lot of other things to do, figuring out how that's going to work out. So right now I'm just trying to worry about my life right now. So sorry if you see like repetitive videos, or I might bring custom videos back so I have something small to work on. Not trying to work on anything big right now. So yeah. Definitely a lot of the inspiration from this movie came a lot from the storybook Casey Jr. Him being a former switch engine is mentioned in that book. him being sold off from another company, his questioning signals, that's pulled from the storybook as well. He joins the circus. Most of the context for the story is pulled from there. His physical design is actually inspired by most of the Disneyland Railroad, or the Ernest S. Marsh. That's what his physical design is he's supposed to look like in real life. I was also inspired by a lot of the Casey Jones, the legend of Casey Jones, all that stuff. The wreck in Chapter 3 is based off of Casey's wreck that he had. But I think I'm going to go further into references in another video, because there's actually a lot of references and a lot of things that are foreshadowed. There's a lot of foreshadowing that I hid in the movie, and I think I'm going to go over those in a separate video. It looks like we've hit about the 11 to 10 minute mark on this video. So I think I'm just going to end this video right here, and I will follow up with the rest of the questions in part 2.